Okay, we're just going to start this and see where it goes. Today, we're going to be discussing a sometimes polarizing and yet very well loved artist. That artist is Eminem. I'm sure you all have heard one of his many hit songs, whether it's Without Me or My Name Is or like anything. Like he's had like decade spanning hits that are undeniable. Today we'll be discussing, but and as much as I'm a huge fan of Eminem as an artist, I would say I even defend some of his albums that his detractors would consider trash, like the MMLP2 or even probably like Recovery, Relapse. Like I would defend all of those albums as far as the amount of merit that exists in those products, even though they probably aren't what would be considered his best. The artistry is still there, even though it may be lacking in certain areas. Okay, so I love that. I love most of this artist's discography, but where I find myself running into an issue with Eminem is primarily not with him at all. It has nothing to do with him, his discography, his political takes that can be sometimes divisive. What I really find an issue with when it comes to Eminem is his general fan base. Now, the biggest thing that I find myself involved with when it comes to this fan base is these takes where, for some reason, every time Eminem fans tend to speak about Eminem, it's always in the same breath when they're bigging up Eminem, they're pushing someone else down in relation to him. And I found that that's something that I only really see happen with him. For example, Eminem fans just can't seem to let go of the Eminem rap better than Jay-Z on Renegade. This happened about 20 over 20 years ago at this point. And for some reason Eminem fans still speak about it like it happened yesterday. It's like get over it. It happened. People argue over it to this day. Okay. Like it is what it is. And to the same point, Eminem fans will still talk about Eminem versus Ja Rule again, like it happened yesterday. It's like, yes, that was, again, roughly 20 years ago. It's fine. Like, we can let that be in the past. Like, don't let those past accolades of what I would consider a different version of Eminem still shape your perception of him today, right? Because I do think he has gone through some changes both artistically and it seems to be like personally, like within his life, things he believes in. If I'm to believe some of the music he's put out, yeah, I find every time he comes up in conversation, specifically like hip hop conversations, like the those GOAT conversations, the top 10 conversations, we end up in this interesting place where many fans of Eminem will say things like Eminem is number one, it's not even close. And not that there's anything wrong with that take inherently, but there is something wrong when you make that take, but you can't recite one LL verse, for example. You've never heard a Roots album. You don't know anything about like NWA or you don't know Rakim, Wu Tang. Like you aren't really a hip hop fan, which there's nothing wrong with that. But it does beg to put your opinion in what you're saying as like an inherent fact into question. And again, it's something that only seems to happen with these Eminem fans who just say this with such certainty that because X, Eminem is the best. Whether it's because he raps the fastest, because he can put the most words together, because he sells the most records, because he is a global superstar. Somehow that makes it that he's undeniably the best. All of these things are what makes him the best rapper. And I guess that's one take. I happen to disagree. And the reason I disagree is because I think that there's so much more that goes into rapping, MCing, being a hip hop act than rapping, rapping ability, and I guess general skill of putting words together. There's so much more that exists in the art form than that. It's an entire culture, an entire way of life behind this thing. And in that, I think that is where many of people who were probably introduced to hip hop by Eminem, I think that's where there is a bit of a disconnect where these people who love Eminem, they just love the words, they love the complexities of it, of like building metaphors, similes, double entendres, triple entendres. When we're talking about those aspects of it, yeah, undeniable. Eminem is an alien. He takes it to another level. No argument there for me. But I also like to point that there are areas where he is lacking, where you could say, "Oh, this other person has this trait where Eminem couldn't wish to do that." And I don't like to bring that up because it's kind of like doing the exact same thing I'm saying that they're doing, but at a certain point, you just kind of get to a breaking point where you go, okay, you're saying this, and it's just incorrect in my opinion. Right? Your opinion is wrong. Is kind of like what that turns into. So one thing that I would say, like a lot of people, one thing that immediately comes to mind when I think about what Eminem does and what he could be more proficient in is like a common a common thing that people gripe on him about, which is like substance. I think oftentimes his substance matter is limited, right? He oftentimes will neglect the idea of saying something deep or saying something meaningful for the fun of making a joke or making a witty punchline. And that is not bad, but again, it is something that kind of affects the music to a certain degree. Like, how many times can we hear a line where we're discussing, I don't know, murdering somebody or discussing some sort of hot button like political issue and kind of comparing it to an apple or something? Like, how many times are we gonna hear that until we're like, yeah, we get it. We get it. You're amazing at doing that. Now I want to see you do something else. That's always been sort of my issue with Eminem and his music. Not that it's even a bad thing, because hey, whatever works works, right? But if we're going to continue to like crap on legends to big this person up, then eventually it gets to a point where you have to open up that competitive conversation where we do discuss, okay, well, what has this person done versus what that other person has done. For example, I was listening to Recipe by Kendrick Lamar just yesterday. I think I was just getting back from a run, and it was on my playlist, and it came right up, and I was listening to the song and just thinking about the cultural significance in this song, the fact that there's a Dre feature, the interesting like instrumental with the sample in it, like the it's such a like an interesting sample used in this song, and just how much it really brings you to another place in the world. Like it transport you to this place that Kendrick Lamar is talking about, like LA. It really takes you there, and like they really describe what's going on, how it was for them, and like their background, and generic like this is where I'm from sort of rap stuff, like the tradition of it. Like I'm someone who didn't have a voice because my parents weren't necessarily the most influential. My city wasn't necessarily the most influential, and through this medium of art, I was able to have a voice. And now, with that voice, I choose to tell the story of the people who are still where I was and bring it out to the world, which to me is the essence of this all. It's about taking this music and taking a way of life and exposing it to the world for better or worse. Some people choose to do that in a very negative light, and that should be talked about in certain ways, in certain fashions. And some people do it in a more positive light, or a more educational light, or a more like, yeah, just like inviting the world into other ways that people are living, and like letting people know that, hey, this is something that is happening. I'm not saying it's great, I'm not saying it's bad, or even like sometimes you would take it in and make it into something that is almost like a akin to like outlaw music, where it's all fictional, right? Like a Johnny Cash sort of deal, where this isn't happening. I didn't actually do this, but it sounds really cool, so this is the character that we're playing. And I'm never gonna say I'm playing a character. Like, why would that would ruin the entire like artistry of it? Like if I was to come out and get to just saying like, oh, it's all a fake. Like, no. It's like, okay, well, now now you just ruin the entire image of it all. Anyway, I digress. But this is something that I find that oftentimes it has been lacking in Eminem in particular, where yeah, there is very little to any bit of cultural significance, in particular in post encore album Eminem. There's very little cultural impact that he has. Like he has impact, but nothing that really shakes up the hip hop industry in a way that people are like, oh wow. When Eminem put out Recovery, it made me want to rap better. When Eminem put out music to be murdered by, it made me want to change my rap style completely. Like that just is something that I haven't heard anyone say. Like that's just not happened. It's only happened within that particular group of people who love that style of rapping. And I think that's a stark difference between, again, I'll name another legend like a Nas, when like an Illmatic drops, right? Everybody is, yep, we need to switch up everything. The whole style of hip hop changes. And then again with albums like the Carter 3, everything switched and became a completely different style, different feel. Everyone wanted to sound similar, or in many cases almost just like Lil Wayne. And that's huge to me, right? Even if you can say like Lollipop is not Rap God, right? These are two hip hop songs. But which one would you say is more culturally significant? Which one matters to more? Which one was harder to make? And which one could you live without? I'll just let you sit on that one, because I know which one I would rather prefer to keep. It's a song that I would actually go back to, and one that was a moment, but I would never really go back to. It was good for about a week, and that's kind of about it, really. It doesn't like, it isn't something that I imagine it's going to really matter over the the grand scheme of things. And that's not to say that Eminem doesn't have any of those songs. It's just an example of great music or great rapping versus being a great rapper, which I think is the biggest difference. Is that Lil Wayne took this style, he ran with it, he made it his own with the auto tune like rap mesh thing. He kind of overdid it, but that's another topic for another audio recording. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got for now. It's just like, yeah, it gets pretty draining with some of these conversations. Like we shouldn't downplay other people's achievements because you like somebody else. And again, that to me is not the way this should go. And if we want to play that game, anybody can be critiqued whenever it comes to art, because nobody's form of art is like perfect. You can make a statement about why it's good, but you can't necessarily say why something is like phenomenal and everything else is subpar or less than in a general sense. It's like, it's ridiculous. Like, get over yourself. And that's where I'll leave this for now. Yeah, just had to take a minute, get that off my chest, and who knows, maybe we'll make a part 2 to this and continue the discussion. Let me know what you think down in the comments, and I will catch you on the next one.